One way to think about self-confidence is that it's the courage to be yourself, in whatever form that takes. Self-confidence is a natural result of healthy self-esteem. So I've come up with about 5 areas or so where self-confidence and relationship confidence coaching can really help and really make a difference to transform people from feeling stressed and doubtful and insecure into feeling a lot of confidence in their relationships and feeling very relaxed in the partnership that they have. So the things that I have come up with, let me just kind of breeze through the items, and then I'll talk a little bit more about each one. The first one has to do with changing self-judgment and self-criticism into self-acceptance. The second thing is about setting boundaries, declaring what's true for you. The third thing is about people-pleasing, where being liked is essential. And the fourth thing is about over-responsibility, the it's my job to fix it kind of a concept. And then the last thing is that notion of losing yourself in relationships that we touched on a little bit before. One thing that I have noticed from talking with my clients over the years is that most of us have a tendency to be way too hard on ourselves, way too judgmental and condemning. And, there's a lot of negative messages that come up and self-criticisms that come up. Things like, I'm not honest. I'm not being a good relationship partner. I'm just not lovable enough, or I'm weird. I'm inexperienced, or I'm too immature. Whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter what the words are so much, because sometimes these are assessments of ourself that are not entirely incorrect. Sometimes these are areas that do need working on. But the point of it is that it's harsh, it's critical, it's abrasive, and that's a really bad practice to do, is to have a bully inside your head that is either picking on you or kind of beating yourself up that way. That undermines self-confidence in a really big way. A big self-criticism that seems to work its way to the surface a lot with the clients I'm working with is the I'm selfish, I'm too selfish criticism. I'm not a good relationship partner because I'm too selfish. And that one comes up a lot in the population that I work with. Most of the time these are people who have become maybe a little too self-sacrificing all their life, maybe a little too other-focused, and the very notion of taking care of their own needs or speaking out for themselves feels selfish. And there's a voice inside that says, don't be selfish. Don't ask for that. Don't say that. You're being selfish. So what we do with that, we play a little game. We call it, let's take it to court. And we take these self-accusations, which are just beliefs, really, and we take them to court, so to speak. We put them on trial, and we look for evidence to see if it stands up. And a lot of the times it doesn't, especially with this selfish thing. It's like, okay, so let's examine this. Let's look at this accusation. And most of the time, it's just a belief that doesn't even hold true, doesn't hold up when you take a closer look at it. So in building and repairing self-confidence, we strengthen the person's ability to have self-acceptance. Sounds simple, but it's not always simple. But once it's attained, it makes a huge difference. Earlier I was talking about a self-esteem that needs nourishing in order to have self-confidence. This is one way to nourish self-esteem. Picking on yourself and bullying yourself will chip away at your self-esteem and undermine your self-confidence. So the flip side of that is being an ally for yourself, being supportive of yourself, the way you would toward somebody you loved, the way you would treat a friend or a child or your pet or anybody that you have complete fondness and love for. You would treat them in this gentle way, and that's the way we need to learn to treat ourselves. It's not a pass. We're not giving ourselves a pass for things that we need to work on, but we are taking that bully out of the mix, because that bully inside will erode self-confidence. So that's the first one. Now the next one is about setting boundaries, and that seems to come up all the time. And I would say that one of the most self-respecting things a person can do in relationships with others that really boosts their self-esteem and their self-confidence is setting healthy boundaries. Saying no when something's not right for you. Saying yes when you really mean it. Saying I see things differently rather than feeling like you have to agree with somebody. Saying things like, I think I've had enough, or I think I need more of that. Saying, this is what I really want, or the thing I really need is, stuff like that, language like that. So I work with my clients to really give them that kind of language that can be used as a toolkit for then plugging in what you feel and think and need and want, and entering that, inserting that into the relationship. That's a form of setting boundaries. Setting boundaries is not just about saying no. It's about all kinds of things, declaring all kinds of things that are true for you in your relationship. We also work on, well, why? If setting boundaries is such a important and cool, easy thing to do, why don't people do it? Every time we find a roadblock, we dig in and we get to the bottom of it. You know, I hear my clients say, well, I'm afraid of the reaction. I'm afraid of what the consequences would be. It would just start a fight if I did that. Some people say, well, it doesn't even occur to me to say that in the moment. I think about it later, but I don't think about it in the moment. And then, of course, there's that bullying voice that says, well, it seems too selfish for me to say that kind of stuff, so I just don't. Those are roadblocks. We overcome those in our coaching work. The next thing in self-confidence coaching that we work with is this notion of people-pleasing. People-pleasing is about trying too hard to be liked, or making being liked such a top priority in relationships that it kind of supersedes other important things like being heard and being understood, being loved for the person that you are. So it's kind of like a thought of, I must be liked at all costs. And so you'd be willing to even throw yourself under the bus in terms of telling the truth about what you think and feel and need and want, because it's more important to be liked when the people-pleasing thing is running the show here. Having to people-please to gain love and affection and respect, that takes a lot of energy. And that does undermine self-esteem and self-confidence. See, we're looking at the things here that chip away, that really erode self-confidence, and having to use your energy to be a people pleaser. There's a premise, which is, as long as I please the other person, I'm liked, I'm loved, I'm wanted. But the minute I operate as my true self, I'm probably going to be discarded, or put down, or kicked out, or whatever the consequence is. That there's usually a fear of, if I just operate as my true self, some negative thing is going to happen. So you can see how that kind of energy being put into people pleasing, feeling like you have to in order to be loved and wanted, that chips away at a person's self-confidence over time. So we really get down and we look at all these little eroders, these little things that tend to kind of cut away at self-confidence. They're not always obvious on the surface, but when we find them, we make some very significant shifts in these things. And lo and behold, self-confidence just starts to bloom like a beautiful plant or flower. The next thing I have on here is this notion of over-responsibility, this it's my job to fix it thing. When someone takes on this role as the fixer, where they feel like they have to always go in, fix things, clean up other people's messes, be the responsible one, it's like feeling responsible for other people's well-being. And you might think, well, this is a really capable person. They really have their act together. They're really strong and they're resourceful. And you'd be right, because those things are true. But this comes up in self-confidence coaching because it's what's going on underneath with these super responsible fixer mentality people. Because there's a belief that says, if I don't perform this way, I won't be worthy or I won't be adequate. So when you look behind the curtain at this trait. We find someone who believes they have to, they must, they have to do these things or else.
Yeah.
Now, I know I'm being mindful of time. I have a feeling we're running out, right?
We are. We have to kind of wrap it up. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I will wrap it up here. I know I get rolling. I love this subject so much because I've just seen so many people just blossom in this area. I had one other thing, which is about losing yourself in relationships. That's probably a whole other radio show right there. But I'm gonna wrap things up and just say that. This is for people who just want to take a deep dive into who they are and how they show up in relationships, to get some real insights and connect the dots on these old patterns and these old beliefs about yourself, about love and relationships, and for people who are interested in just letting go of that stuff that holds you back and holds you down. This kind of coaching works.